cold encounter. The wind howled through the frozen valley. Snowflakes cut like glass as they struck against the ruined walls. The old city had been dead for years, but tonight, a small flame burned weakly between the stones. It was not enough, not against the endless cold. A mother sat close to the tiny fire, her arms wrapped around her child. The girl was trembling, her lips blue, her skin pale. The mother whispered to her, trying to keep her awake, trying to keep her alive, but she had nothing left to give. No food, no shelter, no warmth from the darkness. Footsteps crunched in the snow. The mother froze. Her heart pounding, she looked up and her eyes met the figure of a man. He was taller than most she had seen. Wrapped in heavy clothing, his face shadowed under a hood. The firelight flickered across his eyes, sharp and watchful. A human. The mother's people had spoken of humans. Strange travelers from a far world, strong, dangerous, and mysterious. She did not know if this one would help or harm, but her daughter was dying and pride could not keep her silent. "Please," she begged, her voice cracked and weak. "Just one night, just one blanket, I will give you anything." Her hands shook as she pulled her child closer. Her next words came with shame and despair. "Take her. Take my daughter if you want. Just save her from the cold." The man stood still, his breath fogging the air. He said nothing for a long time, only watching them. The silence was heavier than the snow. The mother felt her hope slipping away. If he turned and walked away, they were both dead before dawn. At last the man stepped forward. He knelt near the fire, pulling a pack from his shoulder from it. He took out a thick thermal blanket, a flask of water, and a small packet of food. Without a word, he wrapped the blanket around the girl. He lifted her carefully, cradling her as if she were his own. The child stirred weakly, her small hand clutching at his coat. Warmth began to return to her body. Her breathing slowed. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She had expected cruelty or indifference, but this human had given more than she had even asked. "You should not be out here," the man said at last, his voice calm but firm. "Where are the rest of your people?" The mother lowered her head. "They are gone," she whispered. "Taken by hunters, by slavers. We escaped, but there is nowhere left for us to go." Her voice broke, her body shaking. "We are all that remains." The man's eyes narrowed. His jaw tightening, he looked toward the darkness, as if he could already see shapes moving there, predators waiting for weakness. His grip on the child tightened, not in harm but in protection. "Then you will not stay here," he said. His words were simple, but they carried weight. He stood, pulling the mother up with one hand. His strength was calm, unshaken by the cold. "Come, both of you. Follow me." The mother stared at him, stunned. You do not want anything? Not even her?" Her voice was filled with disbelief. She had offered her daughter in despair, and yet he had refused without hesitation. The man looked at her, his eyes steady. "I want nothing," he said. No one should trade their child for warmth. Then he turned, leading them away from the dying fire into the night. The mother hesitated only a moment before following, her heart still full of fear, but also something new, something she had not felt in a long time. Hope behind them, the weak fire flickered and died. But ahead, the snow seemed less dark. The human walked with steady steps, carrying the child, and though the cold was endless, she felt for the first time that maybe, just maybe, they would survive. Shadows of hunger, the night was long, the snow deeper with every step. The human walked in silence, carrying the child in his arms, his breath steady, his eyes sharp. Behind him, the mother stumbled, weak and trembling, but she forced herself to keep moving. Every step felt heavy, yet she dared not stop. They reached a cluster of broken towers, black against the white snow. The human stopped, scanning the ruins. His movements were precise, not like a wanderer, but like a soldier who had walked battlefields before. He found a half-collapsed chamber, its roof cracked but enough to shield them from the wind. There he set the child down gently, wrapping the thermal blanket tighter around her small frame. The mother dropped to her knees. Exhausted, her stomach growled, empty for days. Her eyes darted to the human as he pulled strange metal containers from his pack. He placed them near a small device, pressed a switch, and within seconds steam rose. Food, hot and real. The smell filled the air, sharp and warm. It was more than she had seen in weeks. She stared at him, unsure if it was a trick. But when he placed a portion in her hands, she broke down in tears. Her child, barely awake, opened her lips and tasted the warm broth. For the first time in days, she swallowed without pain. The mother whispered, almost ashamed, Why are you doing this? You could have left us to die." The human looked at her, his face calm but distant. "I have seen too many die already," he said. His voice was low, carrying a weight she could not understand. "I will not add 2 more if I can stop it." The word struck her, not just for what he said, but how he said it. He spoke like a man who carried ghosts, like someone who had lost more than he wanted to remember, before she could ask more. The child stirred and pointed weakly toward the broken walls. "Mother, someone's there," she whispered. The mother froze, her blood turning to ice. From the shadows of the ruins, faint eyes glimmered, watching, moving, figures slinking closer, silent as the snow itself. Slavers, hunters, predators of the weak. The human noticed them too, his hand sliding into his coat when it emerged. It carried not just a weapon, but something alien to her. A compact rifle, sleek, heavy, its edges glowing faint blue. The mother's heart stopped. This was no common traveler. This was a man who came prepared for war. The shadows circled tighter. Whispers echoed in an alien tongue, cruel and mocking. They had seen the mother before, fleeing through the wastes. Now they had found her again, and they had not expected a human with her. The leader stepped forward, tall and armored in scavenged plates. His teeth sharp, his eyes cruel. He called out in a voice that rattled the ruins. "Leave the woman and the child, human, and we may let you live." The mother shook with fear, pulling her daughter close. She had heard this demand before, and she knew what followed. But before she could beg the human to run, he stepped in front of her, his stance firm, his weapon steady. "You will not take them," he said. His voice steady as steel. It was not a shout, not a roar, but a calm promise. And somehow it was more terrifying than the hunter's threats. The slaver laughed, his voice echoing. "You think one man can stand against us? This world belongs to us." The human's eyes narrowed. "Then it is time someone reminded you," he whispered. The mother did not understand his meaning, but the hunters did, for in his voice there was no fear, no hesitation. There was only certainty, the kind that comes from one who has survived worse battles than this. The hunters began to close in, blades drawn, ropes ready. The child buried her face into her mother's chest. The mother clutched her tighter, whispering desperate prayers. And in the center of the storm, the human stood tall. His finger rested lightly on the trigger, his eyes watching every shadow. The wind rose, carrying snow like knives. The ruins echoed with growls and whispers, and then silence fell. The kind of silence that comes before violence. The kind of silence that decides life or death. The mother knew then, deep in her heart, this human was not just a traveler. He was something else, something greater. And as the first slaver lunged from the shadows, she realized she might be witnessing the beginning of a story that would echo far beyond this frozen wasteland. The choice of kindness. The first slaver lunged, his blade flashing in the pale light of the frozen ruins. But the human moved faster, his rifle humming, a sharp blue flash cutting through the dark. The attacker dropped instantly, the snow beneath him turning black. The others froze, shocked, their laughter gone. Replaced with caution, the mother gasped, her arms clutching her daughter tighter. She had seen hunters kill. She had seen slavers take lives without mercy. But she had never seen one man stand like this, calm, steady, as if death itself was only another task for him. The slaver leader snarled, waving his soldiers forward. More shadows slipped out of the ruins, surrounding them from every side. "Kill the human. Take the woman and the child alive," he ordered. Their voices hissed with greed. The mother's heart sank. She knew they were too many. But the human didn't step back. Instead, he lowered his weapon for a moment and turned toward the mother. His voice was quiet, calm, almost gentle. "Stay close, do not move, no matter what happens." The mother stared at him, trembling. "You cannot fight them all," she whispered. Her voice cracked with fear. "They will kill you and take us." The human's eyes locked on hers, sharp and unshaken. "They will not," he said simply. And in that moment she believed him, though she did not understand why. The next wave of attackers rushed forward, but the human moved with a precision that was terrifying. Every shot was exact, every step placed with purpose. He was not just fighting, he was controlling the battle itself. It was as if he had done this countless times before. Still, numbers pressed heavy. One slaver managed to slip past his fire. He lunged toward the mother and child. His blade raised, the mother screamed, shielding her daughter. But before the blade could fall, the human was there. He grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisting with a speed no ordinary man should have. The slaver cried out as the human's strength crushed his arm. The weapon clattered to the ground without hesitation. The human drove him back into the snow with a brutal strike. The mother stared in shock. It wasn't just strength, it was training. Movements too precise, too efficient for a wanderer. Who was this man? The slaver leader hissed in fury. You are no scavenger human, what are you? The human didn't answer. He raised his rifle again, but before firing, his eyes shifted toward the mother. For just a moment, she saw something in his face, pain, memory, a shadow of his past, and then it was gone, replaced by the same iron focus. The battle dragged on, the hunters cautious now. They circled but did not rush. Afraid of the blue light of his weapon, the human stood unbroken, his body a shield between danger and the two he protected. The child tugged weakly at her mother's sleeve, whispering, "Mother." "Who is he?" The mother had no answer, her voice lost in the storm of fear and awe. Then something unexpected happened. The beacon, small, metallic, hidden in the human's pack, flared with light. A pulse of energy rippled through the ruins. The hunters recoiled in alarm, whispering in their guttural tongue, "That signal, that technology. It is Terran." The mother's breath caught. Terran, she had heard that word only in whispers. Stories carried between desperate survivors, a people banished from the council, feared by empires, a people said to bring both hope and destruction. She turned to the human, her voice trembling. You are not just a traveler, are you?" The human did not answer her question directly. He only adjusted his weapon, eyes still fixed on the hunters. "Stay behind me," he said again. But his silence spoke louder than any answer. The hunters snarled, but none dared step closer. The beacon's pulse echoed through the ruins, and far above, hidden beyond the clouds, something stirred, something vast, waiting, listening for that signal. The mother didn't know what it was, but deep in her heart she felt the truth. This man was not alone. He was part of something greater, and whatever it was, it had the power to change everything. The hunters backed into the shadows, not defeated but wary. Their leader spat into the snow, his voice sharp with fury. "This is not over. Human, we will return, and when we do, no beacon will save you." Then they melted into the night, their whispers fading with the storm. The mother sank to her knees. Shaking, her child clung to her, safe but frightened. And the human lowered his rifle, his face grim. He knelt beside the child, checking her breathing, wrapping the blanket tighter around her. Then he looked at the mother, his voice softer now. "They will come again, stronger next time." The mother swallowed hard, fear rising again. Then we are already doomed," she whispered. But the human shook his head. "No," he said, his tone calm, almost like a promise. "Because this time, you are not alone." Hunters in the dark, the ruins had fallen silent. But silence was never safety. The mother sat close to her child, the human standing guard just outside the broken chamber. His rifle rested across his chest, his eyes scanning the horizon. He did not sleep. He did not even blink often. He was waiting. The mother could not rest either. Every time the wind shifted, she imagined shadows moving. Every echo in the ruins felt like footsteps. Her people had lived in fear for so long. But tonight the fear was mixed with something else, something she had almost forgotten. A fragile thread of trust. The child stirred, whispering softly, "Mother, will they come back?" The mother swallowed hard, glancing toward the human. "Yes," he said before she could answer, his voice calm and certain. "They will come back, and they will bring more." The mother's heart sank. "Then we cannot survive," she whispered. But the human turned toward her, his eyes steady. "You will," he said, "because I will not let them take you." Before she could reply, a sharp sound echoed through the ruins. A distant horn. Guttural and cruel, the hunters had returned. And this time they were not hiding from every side. Lights appeared in the snow, torches, plasma lamps, the glow of alien weapons. The ruins shook with the stomping of many feet. The mother pulled her daughter close, terror overwhelming her. Dozens of slavers, maybe more, encircled the ruins, their voices rising in a chilling chant. This was no hunt. This was a siege. The human's jaw tightened, his hand adjusting the rifle. He had expected this, maybe even wanted it. The mother saw no fear in him, only resolve. Still, her voice broke with panic. You cannot fight them all. There are too many. The human cut her words short, his voice low but sharp. Fear is their weapon, not mine. He reached into his pack and pulled out something strange, a small disc, metallic, glowing faintly blue. He pressed it to the ground and suddenly a shimmering field expanded around them. The air rippled, forming a faint barrier. The mother gasped, "What is that?" "A shield," he said simply, "temporary, but enough to make them bleed before they reach you." The slaver leader stepped forward, his armor gleaming in the torchlight. He raised his clawed hand, pointing toward the human. "Terran," he spat the word like poison. "You are not welcome in this galaxy. Your kind was cast out, hunted, erased, and yet here you stand defying us. Why?" The human's gaze never wavered. "I don't answer to slavers," he said, his tone sharp as steel. The leader roared in fury, signaling the attack. The horde surged forward, weapons raised, shadows swarming like a tide. The shield flared as the first wave crashed against it. Energy bolts struck the barrier. Blades scraped against its glow. The air filled with the screams of rage and hunger. The human moved. He fired through the shield, each shot precise, burning holes through the attackers. But for every one that fell, two more pressed forward. The barrier rippled under the assault, its glow flickering dangerously. The mother clutched her daughter, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to believe him, but the numbers were endless. "No one can win against this," she whispered, her voice breaking, but then she saw his face, calm, unbroken, his eyes like stone. And when the shield finally flickered and fell, he did not hesitate. He stepped forward into the storm. The hunters roared, rushing him at once, but the human moved with a speed and strength beyond reason. His rifle spat fire, his blade flashed in close quarters. He fought like a force of nature, every strike exact, every movement efficient. He was one man against an army, and yet for every scream in the dark, it was the hunters who fell. The mother's fear turned to awe. She had seen soldiers fight, she had seen hunters kill, but this was something else, something terrifying. It was as if death itself walked among them, cloaked in human skin. Still, the battle was brutal. A blade cut across his arm, blood staining the snow. Another strike glanced against his side, but he did not falter. His jaw clenched, his eyes burning. Pain meant nothing to him. Only the promise he had made. The leader roared again, charging through his own men. He was massive, armored, a beast of war. He swung a heavy axe toward the human. The ground cracked under the blow. But the human caught the weapon with both hands. Muscles straining, the clash shook the ruins. Sparks flying, the mother screamed, thinking this was the end, but the human pushed back, forcing the leader to stumble with a swift strike. He drove the butt of his rifle into the alien's face, shattering bone. Then he raised his weapon, pressing it to the leader's chest. "You should have stayed in the dark," he whispered. And with one shot, the leader fell, silent forever. The horde hesitated, fear rippling through them. Their leader was dead, their prey untouched, and in the ruins, the human stood tall, blood on his coat, his rifle glowing. He looked like a figure pulled from legend. Not a man, but something more. The slavers broke, their courage shattered. They fled into the storm, their voices shrieking. The ruins grew silent once more. Snow fell gently over the broken bodies, and in the center the human stood unmoving. His breath heavy, his eyes still burning. The mother stared at him, trembling. He had saved them again, but the question burned deeper now. Who was he really? And why did he risk everything for them? The child whispered softly, her voice filled with wonder. "Mother."
"He's not just human, is he?"
The mother could not answer. She only watched as the man reloaded his weapon. His face shadowed, and for the first time she realized this was not simply survival. This was the beginning of something greater, something the galaxy itself might one day fear. The dawn of trust. The ruins were quiet again. Snow drifted over the bodies of the fallen hunters, covering them in white silence. The air still carried the smell of burned metal and blood, but inside the broken chamber there was only the sound of a child breathing softly, wrapped in warmth. The mother sat close, her hands trembling as she tried to clean the wound on the human's arm. He had bled, but he had not fallen. Every cut, every strike, he had endured without hesitation. She looked at him with awe, her voice breaking. "You saved us." Again, the human said nothing at first. Only watching the snow, his face was calm, but his eyes carried shadows. Finally he spoke, his tone quiet but steady. They will come back, not just hunters, the signal I sent. Others will have heard it. The mother froze, her heart pounding. Others? You mean more slavers? The human shook his head slowly. No, not them, he said. His gaze lifted toward the sky where the storm clouds churned endlessly. Someone else, someone who has been waiting for a long time. The mother followed his eyes, confused. What are you? She whispered. Her voice carried fear, but also hope. He looked at her, finally answering the question she had asked since the moment he appeared. I am Terran, he said. The word fell heavy. Dangerous, powerful, the mother gasped, her hands trembling. The child tilted her head, curious but unafraid. What does that mean? She asked softly. The human knelt beside her, his expression softening for the first time. It means I come from a place your people were told was gone, he said. It means I was sent to find those who suffer and bring them home. The mother's eyes widened. Her people had whispered of Terrans, banished, erased, hunted, but always feared. Yet here was one bleeding for her child, standing against an army to protect them. Her voice cracked with disbelief. You fight for us, even though we are not your kind? The human's reply was simple, unshaken. Kindness has no species, he said. His words struck deeper than any weapon. And in that moment, the mother felt her despair break, replaced by something she had thought long dead, hope before she could speak again. The ground trembled. A deep hum rolled across the ruins. Shaking the broken towers, the mother clutched her daughter, fear rising once more. What is that? She whispered. The human stood, his eyes narrowing. They are here, he said. From the clouds above, lights pierced the storm. Not torches, not hunter fire, but vast, steady beams, blue and gold. The sound grew louder, deeper, like the heartbeat of the sky itself. Then they saw it, an enormous shadow descending from the clouds. A ship, colossal, dwarfing the ruins. Its hull lined with symbols unknown to her but familiar to him. A Terran warship, its engines thundered as it hovered above, snow swirling violently around it. The mother fell to her knees, overwhelmed. The child clutched her blanket. Eyes wide in awe, the human raised his hand, pressing a small device on his wrist. The ship responded instantly, a ramp descending from its side, light spilling into the frozen night. He turned to them, his face steady. You cannot stay here, he said. If you do, more hunters will come and they will never stop. He extended his hand, not as a demand, but as a choice. Come with me, and you will never be hunted again. The mother's breath caught. She looked at her daughter, then back at him. Tears filled her eyes. You mean, you will take us with you? Even though we are nothing. The human shook his head. You are not nothing, he said firmly. You are survivors. And you deserve to live. The child smiled weakly, reaching out her small hand toward his. Take us home, she whispered. And the human, for the first time, allowed himself a faint smile. He lifted her gently into his arms. Offering his other hand to the mother, she took it, her heart steadying for the first time in years. Together they walked toward the blinding light of the ship. Behind them the ruins vanished into snow. Before them a future unknown but no longer hopeless. As the ramp closed and the engines roared, the mother whispered to herself, Terran, savior. But the human standing at the window as the world shrank beneath them whispered something else. Not savior. Just the first, and soon, the galaxy will remember what humanity truly is. The ship ascended into the storm, its light cutting through the endless dark. And in that moment, the mother knew their story was only the beginning. The galaxy had feared the return of Terrans, but it had never prepared for the truth. For humanity did not return for vengeance alone. They returned for hope, and nothing in the stars would ever be the same again.